Kapla warriors, today is a good day to learn something new. For those of you that are new, Wednesdays are class with Dr. Export. Export, myself, speaks in a British accent and teaches you on a subject chosen by viewers the previous week. Last week you all voted for the science of spices. So that is what we'll be discussing today, and I hope it will improve all of your cooking. It's certainly very helpful. I also will provide you with 3 recommendations for books that are useful on the topic of sciences and flavor pairing. And so yes, today we've voted for spices. At the end of stream today, you will vote for next week's topic. And let's see, a review of the schedule for the week. Streaming schedule. Schedule, that's right. I'm still working on my British accent. I will be doing requests for impressions today based on the bits, but bear in mind it is more difficult because I'm already doing an impression. So switching from an impression to an impression is more difficult, and it will take away from our time for learning. So if you can, save those bits for tomorrow. It would be a much better time tomorrow. Or the end of stream. Hello, Khan, a new name, I see. Alright. And yes, the spice flow. So Mondays are gaming. This week on Monday we played GeoGuessr, and it was quite a lot of fun. We did quite well. There was only one, I believe, where we ultimately failed. Just a moment, I'm going to restart my avatar. She's a little frozen. Tuesdays are karaoke, which we did yesterday. I performed one song just on the piano and sang 3 songs. Wednesday's a class with Dr. Export. How real am I? I'm very real. Wednesday's class with Dr. Export. I teach on a subject chosen by you, the viewers, the previous week. Last week was the adventures of Zeus, and today is the science of spices. Thank you, Blue Tut, for subbing with Amazon Prime on Twitch. What's up, Charlemagne? And whoa, sorry, I just bumped into my microphone. Eramiserasmus. It's not when I say spice, I don't mean spicy. There's a difference between spice and spicy. I don't do spicy, really. I feel it takes away from the overall flavor, because all I taste is burning. Anyway, Thursdays are gaming, and Fridays are Nikkei guest host streams. An impression chosen by you, the viewers, the followers. Right now, in the impression election poll, Siren is in the lead. You all are mocking me for my anxiety. So I guess it's good to get more practice with Siren. As I said, she's in the lead. If you don't want Siren on Friday, quickly go and vote and try to shift the vote with your friends. And Charlemagne, you're right. I absolutely should do that. We'll work on that. Yes, British history, correct, God of Wolves. And then, yes. So that's that. And I will be doing the science of spices today. I used 3 books as reference. 2 of them I absolutely love, and 1 is just alright. The one that I love is called The Science of Spice by Dr. Stuart Farrimond. It's fascinating. It goes over the science of spices and the flavors. It goes over many different types of spices, and it discusses the spice trade and signature spices of each country or region, including spice blends. It's wonderful. It talks about the flavor compounds and the organic compounds, also called volatile compounds or aromatic compounds, but whatever you call it, it goes over that and discusses how to create a good spice blend. We will be discussing that more. And then the second book is called The Flavor Matrix, and it's not specific to spices. It's more broadly about flavor combinations, but it makes it into a fascinating science based on flavor categories and chemistry, and it includes spices as well. And then the last one is the Flavor Bible. Is that right? Is that what it's called? The Flavor Bible, also not specific to spices, more generically to flavor, but it includes that information as well. You could look up a spice and see what pairs well with it. It's wonderful. All right. Let's see, just peeking in the chat. Yes, yes. All right. Let us begin. So what is a spice? You'll read some different definitions, but they largely are the same. They are a flavor that comes from a part of a plant, usually a stem, a root, an underground store, a fruit, a seed, or the flowers. Versus herbs typically come from the leafy growth. There are a few leaves that are typically classified as spices, and these include bay leaf and curry leaf. These are considered to be spices, I think partially because they're usually used dry, and just because of the compounds of the flavor. So, flavor spices are made up of flavor compounds. And these flavor compounds are tiny molecules that give spices and other foods their flavor. And each food or spice contains many flavor compounds. Some contain as many as 20, some hundreds. So they all have these different compounds that give the spice its flavor. Or the food as well. So coffee is not a spice typically, but it contains flavor compounds as well. And some spices are sweet. Alpheus, you're correct. We'll be discussing that. And then when we consume a food with a spice, it goes into our mouth and then wafts up our throat as a vapor and into our nose. So spices are made of aromatic compounds, which is how we perceive them on our tongue as a taste. Yes, we will discuss nutmeg 1F. Nutmeg is quite a fascinating spice. Lagario, while I don't believe many categorize salt as a spice per se, it is extremely important. We'll first go over some more basic categorization of spices, and then we'll get more into scientific categorizations. So if we're talking about more basic categorizations, you might see them categorized in a variety of ways. So you might see them categorized as hot or pungent, such as black and white pepper, mustard, or red pepper. You might see them categorized as mild, such as paprika or coriander. You might see them categorized as aromatic, clove, cumin, dill, fennel, nutmeg, mace, and cinnamon. Or these are different. These are herbs. Idiots. Anyway, you might also see them categorized based on what part of the plant they come from. Now, I don't want to show you that yet. Cover it up. Can anyone guess? One of my favorite hobbies is to think of a spice and then Google what the plant it comes from looks like. Does anyone know what cinnamon looks like? What plant it comes from? Where? And thank you, Godako, for redeeming your bits to highlight your message. Which? Yes, that is. The new commander was once a member in the Spice Band. Spice Girls? Cinnamon sticks. Yes, Alpheus. Alpheus has it right. Cinnamon comes from... It's a tree bark. Look at this. It's a tree bark. Isn't that incredible? It's quite fascinating. So cinnamon comes from a tree bark. Incredible. Yes, Alpheus is right. Does anyone know what nutmeg looks like, where it comes from? I believe it's this photo right here. Hello, Josbert. So, nutmeg comes from this berry inside, and the red part called the arils. The red part called the arils is where mace comes from. So nutmeg, the nutmeg plant, actually produces two spices. The nutmeg, this brown part, and mace. Yes, Lagario, you're more or less correct. Tove was right. We can eat trees. Sort of. So it creates two spices. Anyone know what cloves look like? Clove is my favorite spice. anyone know what a clove looks like? Incorrect, Keiki Chim. That is not what a clove looks like. Although, to be fair, a dried nutmeg definitely does look like that. Because this is a fresh nutmeg. It hasn't been dried yet. Yes, it's quite fascinating. No, cloves. Look at these little, berries, sort of. This is where cloves come from. Aren't they beautiful? Ah, Alpheus, yes, I certainly wouldn't want to bite into a clove, but ground clove is excellent. Just delicious. Yes, Godako, I saw your original joke got filtered. I feel there's going to be a lot of that today. I don't believe he did put that in his book. I just saw a question. No, not mesas and pepper spray. So that's a clove. Isn't that fascinating? Now, peppers come from a berry. Look at this. These are pepper berries. Then they dry them and they become spicy. So it's quite fascinating. I love to Google. Here's some, look at these, pink berries, different kinds of pepper berries. I love to Google where different spices come from. Yes, Mesas and Mace Windu, that's correct. Mace Windu was born from a nutmeg. But the arrows on his nutmeg were purple, which is why his lightsaber is purple. So anyway, there's also, so as I said, you can categorize the spice based on what part of the plant it comes from. The leaf, well, these are partially herbs in this category, so mostly ignore that. The bark, the seed, the flower, or the pistil, the fruit or the berry, the bulbs, the rhizome, or the aril. It's all kinds. So it's quite fascinating. Then here are some additional ways of categorizing. Some people get really in-depth with the categorizing of flavors. So there's bitter or depth. They've got bay leaf, oregano, sage, and thyme. Cooling or refreshing, such as mint or basil. Ooh, redacted. Yes, I was trying to find more on ancient spices. We'll touch on that a bit. Earthy or musty spices, paprika, cumin, caraway. Personally, this categorization I often find confusing. I understand that mint is cooling. I don't see how anise is cooling. I don't see how sage is bitter, so this type is difficult for me. I need more experience. Floral, of course I understand floral. Not an idiot. Although I don't understand how coriander or saffron are floral. There's fruity or citrusy, of course, obvious, no. There's herbaceous, and again, I don't understand how cinnamon is herbaceous, so not my favorite. Yes, musty sounds awful, I agree. Hot or warm, that's obvious. Nutty, more or less obvious. Piney, I understand this, but it sounds awful. And intense or pungent, I understand. Sour or tart. Spicy, as in spiced, not as in hot. Sweet. Woody, as in flavor. So I don't like this yes, I find this style confusing. So not my favorite. I prefer, ignore this image, I prefer the categorization done in this book, the Science of Spice. Which also might be discussed somewhat in the flavor matrix. And it's talking about flavor compounds, so the science, the chemistry. So, spices are made up of different compounds, and there's broader categories that they can fall into. As you can see, this is a periodic table of spice. Acacia, yes, or juniper. Thank you, 1F. Where do the Spice Girls fit into all this? Well, I'm trying to remember. Do any of them have an actual spice name? Baby Spice, Scary Spice, Sporty Spice, Posh Spice. None of them have an actual spice name, do they? Anyway. So, yes, it's a periodic table of spices. I like it. I like to break it down into this scientific style. So I'll read you the list of flavor categories he gives. He gives the major flavor categories and then the minor flavor compounds as well. Yes. Aniseed is, yes, a spice. That is in my list, I believe. So first, there are the sweet warming phenols, such as aniseed. You can see, I know it's blurry a bit, but here is aniseed. It's a sweet warming phenol. Clove is also, this is just a snippet, here's clove, also a sweet warming phenol. Who are you calling herbaceous out of context? Next are the earthy terpenes, such as cumin. Then there are the warming terpenes, such as nutmeg, where is it? Nutmeg, or annatto. I believe that's it, yes, annatto. Then there's the penetrating terpenes. I know what that sounds like, yes, I hear it. Such as cardamom. Where is it? Cardamom. Is that it? Yes, no. I can't quite tell. I think that says cardamom. It's blurry for me as well. Then there are the fragrant terpenes, such as juniper and coriander. Then there are the citrus terpenes, such as lemongrass. Very possibly DM, I'm not certain. Annatto, an A at the front, annatto. And then there's the sweet sour acids, such as carob and anchor. Carob, right here. Carob, does anyone know that carob is actually a chocolate substitute often used for dogs? For people that feel the need to get their dogs something chocolatey, they get them carob because it has a similar flavor to chocolate but won't poison your dog. Anyway, here's carob. Anchor, I don't think is on here. Oh, anchor, it is. Sulfurous compounds such as garlic. Oh, there's cardamom. Anyway, garlic and mustard. Garlic and mustard. I don't see them, but I think we all know what garlic and mustard are. Then there is the fruity aldehydes, such as barberry and sumac. Does the ocean have spices? No, out of context. They all come from plants. Anyone ever had sumac? I quite like sumac. The first time I had it and realized I was having it was some avocado toast, which is topped with it. I quite like it. Yes, Redacted, you're right. Redacted, I think you would enjoy the flavor matrix. We discussed that at length. So sumac, delicious. Anyone had sumac? Yes, Acacia, I'm with you on that. I don't buy carob. And I had a friend whose dog died from exposure to chocolate. Well, consumption of chocolate. So she never bought carob because she didn't want to give him a taste for chocolatey. And then after... I do not believe kelp is considered a spice. Though, interesting question, because you'd think perhaps seaweed, if dried and crushed, could theoretically be considered a spice. And then there are the pungent compounds, such as chili and black pepper. Not my favorite. I'm not a fan of spicy. I love spices, but not spicy. For example, with Indian food, I love the spices of Indian food, but I prefer that it's not spicy because I want to taste the spices. And when it's spicy, I don't taste the spices. Anyone understand what I'm saying, or does that sound like nonsense? Alright, then there are the toasty pyrazines, which are somewhat unique. Yes, good point, Redacted. It does contain umami. So, the toasty pyrazines are the spices that we use by toasting them, such as sesame. Sesame, we toast it, we dry toast, which brings out the flavor. Paprika, Godako is not my favorite, but I'm okay with it as part of blends. If it's in a blend, I like it. If something's paprika heavy, not so much. And my other thought on paprika is that it was a great prequel for the movie Inception. Yes, Josbert, India uses a lot of curry, a lot of turmeric. And then the last one is the unique compounds, which are... kind of defy some of the other categorizations. These include saffron and turmeric. Alright, pop quiz. What? Curry is a spice, Alpheus, you are incorrect. Curry is a type of leaf. There's curry leaf. Or are you joking, perhaps? Sometimes I am artistic, so sometimes the jokes go over my head. I was going to say, pop quiz. What is the most expensive spice in the world today? Yes, I think you're right, Redacted. I usually see if I'm buying paprika, there's Hungarian paprika, there's sweet paprika, and I believe there's one other kind. Acacia, I'm glad to see you got that joke. Ah, yes, Blue Tut is correct. Saffron. Out of context, are you joking? It's saffron. Lagario, vanilla, I don't... Is it considered a spice? I think it is on here. Good guess. Vanilla is quite expensive, but pound per pound, it's saffron. Even more expensive. Like, if you've ever seen it, anyone ever tried to buy saffron at the grocery store? They sell it in a tiny little vial with just a few little strands. Smoked paprika. Thank you, Jack's Tricks. There's Hungarian sweet and smoked. Yes, Saffron City was named after spice, the world's most expensive spice. So now I'm going to give you an example of a few spices, 3 of my favorite spices. Yes, correct, Redacted. The dried stamen of the crocus. And it takes a lot. You were very close out of context. You just had one letter wrong. Yes, vanilla, especially depending on where it comes from, I believe, God of Wolves, because there's Madagascar vanilla, there's South American vanilla. One of my dreams is to grow my own vanilla plant. I've always wanted to make my own vanilla as well. Vanilla comes from an orchid. Isn't that incredible? So both of the most expensive come from flowers. The saffron flower, the crocus flower, and the orchid. Vanilla's an orchid. And then, saffron, I believe, probably does relate to a color because saffron has that reddish color. Yes, Alpheus, I don't love saffron. It's alright, but I don't think it's worth the cost. If I ever see it in a recipe, I don't buy it. I'm like, that's ridiculous. Why would I spend $20 extra? Redacted, it does come from a bean. You're correct. It comes from, vanilla is inside the bean. Yes, inside the pod. I buy real vanilla, but not the expensive fancy kind. I always use real vanilla, not imitation, but I don't buy the super expensive kind. That's true, saffron does turn things yellow, but the saffron itself is red. Anyway, I'll go over a few spices and give you some examples of their flavor compounds. So cloves, my favorite. Cloves are a sweet warming phenol, but they are also made up of eugenol and caryophyllene. Those are their main compounds. Then sumac, another of my favorites. It's a sweet sour acid. It's made up of tannins and organic acids, decenol and nonanol, pinene, and caryophyllene. And I'm actually going somewhere with this, don't worry. Last, sesame is a toasty pyrazine, which contains pyrazines and 2-furylmethanethiol, furfural, and hexanol. And the purpose of explaining all these flavor compounds to you is to explain how to make a spice blend. So, how do you create your own spice blend? Blue Tut, the difference between real and imitation? I honestly don't know what imitation is made from. Real vanilla extract is made from vanilla beans soaked in vodka or another alcohol and then left to soak. I'm not sure what imitation is. Yes, from a chemical, artificial flavor. So now, how do you create a spice blend? Well, yes, you mix them together, but Charlemagne, how do you create one that tastes good? So, first, we have the periodic table up in here still. Yes, Lagario. Well, vanilla comes from an orchid, and orchids can be difficult to grow. And saffron, I believe, is quite laborious. So, to create a spice blend, first, choose the 1 or 2 main flavor groups that you want to choose from. So, for example, you could choose allspice and star anise, which are both warming phenols. And then you could also choose the category of penetrating terpenes. So, let's say I'm making this blend. I've decided I want to choose 2 from the sweet warming phenols and 1 from the penetrating terpenes. So I look at my list and I say, all right, I want allspice and I want star anise, which is used in chai. Star anise and allspice. Those are the 2 warming phenols I want. And then I will also choose a penetrating terpene. I choose Galingol. Galingol. And I have chosen these three because all three of these, when you look at the flavor compounds, they all contain the compounds of peppery phellandrine and cineol. So they have compounds in common. And that is why I've chosen these two. I'm so sorry, Godako. It's not showing me clearly when your messages are you are using bits for the messages. I'm so sorry about that. I see a little nostalgia. The fake vanilla. Ah, yes, is from a compound called vanillin. Yes, I remember. You use them for experiments. That sounds like a lovely class, Godako. Thank you. Godako just enlightened us. The artificial flavor used to make fake vanilla is vanillin. Alright, and a reminder that if you are an Amazon Prime subscriber, you can use your free Twitch subscription to subscribe to me on Twitch. And in so doing, while watching, you can earn bits. And then use those bits to purchase rewards from me. Right now, the one reward we have is that you can pay with bits to have me read a line in an impression of one of the 6 Nikke characters that I've done. So you can have whatever you want me to say that is appropriate. It has to be safe for work. I will say it in the voice of either Crown, Siren, Yan, Sugar, Grave, or Lilywise. Yes, Jackstrix, there is a science. And thanks, Trilith3, for donating 500 bits. Well, goodness, thank you so much for that. I think that's a record. Will I add my British accent? Well, Lilywise is a British accent, God of Wolves. Yes, Acacia, today is not a great day for extra impressions. It will take away from the lesson and is more difficult for me because I'm already doing my British accent. But at the end of stream, I'm happy to do them. All the ones you want, we can allow extra minutes even. Alright. So then, back to our spice blending. You choose your groups, you choose from within the groups, and you want things that have a compound in common. Then, to make it even better, to add depth and complexity to the blend, add an additional spice. So right now I've used star anise, and I've used allspice, and I've used galangal, and I've decided I'm going to add coriander because coriander shares a compound called floral linalool, which allspice and star anise also have, and it has a connection to galangal through the camphene compound, which is related to the camphor in galangal. Well, let's see, what did I say? Coriander. So now we've chosen 4 spices. And they all have things in common, but are different. So they will create a depth of flavor that all jives. Because you want complementary flavors or contrasting flavors, but you want them to all go together. Alright. Yes, Lagario! You could have bought that saffron! Alright. Moving on, we will discuss the spice trade. Let me find my map. Alright, well, here's a neat little thing that's related to the spice trade. These are where different spices came from. So, vanilla, we owe many thanks to the South Americas for not just spices, but a variety of foods. But vanilla came from the Americas, the vanilla orchid. So yes, so if you look, this is why the spice trade started. Look at all these delicious spices all around the world. Now, an interesting fact, let me find it. Oh no, my page turned. Well, an interesting fact is that for hundreds of years, Sri Lanka is where cinnamon originally came from. And for hundreds of years, it was the only known place that you could get cinnamon. Hold on, let me find my page. I lost it. Sri Lanka, formerly called Ceylon. So you'll see the name Ceylon cinnamon. this island was for centuries the only known source of cinnamon. Now you can get it from other places, but it was the OG cinnamon, and that's important to know because the spice trade essentially started because of cinnamon. So, the spice trade began thousands of years ago. And interesting choice, Trilith3. Truffles, I did not see in here, but that's interesting. I'll have to Google that one as well. Truffles and seaweed. So the spice trade began thousands of years ago. Some sources said 1000 BCE. So it started with the movement of cinnamon from Indonesia, Sri Lanka, and India to Egypt. So at the time, I'll show you this map here. Not this one. This one. So, you can see, so originally they had only a land route to acquire spices. The spices were coming from Asia. So, Arabs, primarily, were taking spices from Asia over to Egypt. And that's how the spice trade got started. So they were using land routes. Yes, Lagaria, it's quite a long time ago. And true Gadako. The British created an empire for spices, and yet their stuff are bland. Yes, the primary spice used in England, the British Empire, Gudako, I believe, is flour. And then, so, the Arabs along the Silk Road, I'm sure you've heard of the Silk Road. It was a route that connected Asia with the Mediterranean, with Africa, and with Europe. So they started first bringing cinnamon to Egypt, and then bringing more and more spices over to Europe. And connecting, and spices also were coming from all around, taking them to Europe. They were like, damn, we've got no spices, just... Yes, yes, exactly, Charlemagne. And they did not have Nikkei out of context. Butts did exist, but they used them differently. Garlic powder... What? Ah, yes, yes. Autistic philosopher. Oh, a fellow autistic. Yes. Garlic powder is one of my most used spices. Fresh garlic, garlic powder, garlic salt. Yes, Alpheus, I'm joking about the flour. It's a joke from Bob's Burgers. She says if her friend were a spice, she'd be flour, meaning she's bland and boring. So that was the joke. I guess you guys haven't seen that episode. So anyway, they were bringing those spices over, and the Arabs mostly had the hold on the trade because they controlled the land, and the land route was important. And then by 1 CE, a trade network was operating with India at the center. Here was India, here was all the rest. It was all coming this way. And then something very important happened that shifted the control of the spice trade. And that is that Constantinople fell to the Ottomans, which ended the Roman Empire, and importantly, it cut off the land connection between Europe and Asia. So now the Ottomans were ruling this, and they, instead of the Romans, you didn't catch the name of what, Alpheus? Oh, Bob's Burgers, yes. So instead of the Romans, the Ottomans were holding it, and they were charging hefty taxes on any products heading over to Europe. And the Western Europeans didn't like that, and they didn't want someone else controlling their access to spices. They didn't want dependence. Yes, modern-day Istanbul. It was called Constantinople at the time, was it not? I may be wrong. That's what I always heard it called. Yes, the Byzantine Empire, yes. And so, Europe was like, we need to find another way to get to our spices so that we can not use them. We want to have them, but not use them, just like a toddler. So, ultimately, the Portuguese discovered a route around Africa to get to their spices. Sounds terribly inconvenient to me to go all the way around Africa, but they were determined. So they created the ocean route around Africa so they could get their spices. So now the land route was no longer needed, so the controls shifted. And then, so in the 15th century, they're my spices and I want them now. I like that. So now in the 15th century, so the 1400s, the Portuguese found that route, and then the Dutch and the East the English East Indian trading companies took over. They also did tea. I believe that's when they started making them do tea as well. Europe started to compete with China for tea by growing it in India. And so the Dutch and the East Indies trading companies, you've probably heard about them. And so they held on to the power for a while. Then, additionally, the Americas were, quote, discovered. The New World, as they called it. So that brought even more spices into play. See, you can see here. Well, we'll just go around. Ha ha! So you can see the red is the English Indian Trading Company, and the yellow is the Dutch. So they were like, fuck you, we'll get our own spices. And then the Americas came into play, and you can see why they wanted to get spices from over there. Look at all the things they had. They had allspice, they had rosemary, thyme, wait, no, what the hell? No. They had allspice, they had pepper, they had vanilla, sassafras, many others. So that brought the whole world into it. And... yes, Doctor. The quote, new were discovered. Hey, you over there, see how I just discovered you? Yes, I found you. Peekaboo. And so, but then eventually, new things came into play, such as tea and coffee and, something else. I can't think what. And then the Dutch and English East Indian trading companies, and in general the spice trading companies, collapsed because spices became globalized. And they started being grown everywhere. So, you know, as I said, Sri Lanka was the only cinnamon place. But now we got cinnamon other places, we got spices other places. You can grow whatever you want in your yard, essentially. I was not aware of that, DM. Why did they do that? Wait, what did I do, Keiki-Chim? What did I say? I didn't know I said anything bad. Anyway, so that is the history of the spice trade in a nutshell. Do I have any pictures of crocuses on here? Anyone see a crocus? Yes, here's the saffron crocus. It's quite small. There it is. And so, that is that. Lastly... oh, yes, Keiki-Chim, I did say it. Just the one time, right? I'm allowed one. You frightened me, Keiki-Chim. I thought I somehow said something more offensive than that. More specifically offensive. Frightened me. Let me bring up a picture. I wanted to bring up a picture of a vanilla orchid and a, crocus saffron. Saffron crocus. Vanilla orchid. So does anyone know why it was difficult to cultivate orchids for a long time? Anybody know the answer? Look at that. It's a beauty. I want to grow my own. Climate and mistiness. Yes, those are two reasons, but there's the climate is important, but there's something additional that we didn't know about for a long time. Crocus, saffron crocus. So yes, the climate and the humidity and the mist. You're on the right track, Godako. You are on the right track. It's related to the soil, but what about the soil? Give you one more minute. Where's my water? Got it. Look at these beautiful saffron crocuses. So, yes, God of Wolves, also on the right track. So it's the soil and the roots. The roots form through support by something called mycorrhizae. Mycorrhizae is a soil fungus, essentially. And without it, the orchid cannot take root. Let me see if I can find a picture of that as well. Orchid Oh, I don't know if I can spell that. Hey, I was quite close. So, it's kind of a symbiotic relationship between the orchid and the fungus. So this fungus allows the orchid to take root. And those other factors you mentioned, the humidity, that is important as well, but there are other humid places. Sorry, it's very slow. But the mycorrhizae allows it to take root. Yes, isn't that quite fascinating? So here's the beautiful vanilla orchid. My dream is to grow one someday, make my own vanilla. Sell it for $100 a bottle to rich people. I'll tell them it's organic and kosher and halal, and I'll tell them it's everything. I'll tell them it's vegan, I'll tell them it's meat, whatever. If only this image would come up. Orchid mycorrhizae. Damn it. Images. Alright. I would like an image to show you underneath the soil. So this is the evolution of the partnership between the mycorrhizae and the orchids. They have a partnership. So the fungus helps the mycorrhizae to the mycorrhizae fungus helps the orchid to grow. Can't find. It's taking forever. But that was one reason it was very difficult to cultivate orchids. So yes, yes, someone did say sassafras got banned. I'm not sure what the deal is with that. I'm going to need to find out. Sassafras is delicious. Orchids are very unusual. Redacted. What spice did the Romans eat to extinction? I'm not familiar with that. Yes, Charlemagne, I agree. Saffron is mid. But saffron and sassafras are different. No, the orchids in stores are real because we've learned how to cultivate them. It just took time to figure out. 1960? All this time I thought I was drinking it. Oh, Silphium. Yes, it wasn't in my book. Let's look that up. And then the last section I have is some world spice blends / signature spices of different... Oh, not an image, damn it. Of different... Ew. Oh, this is the one! This is the one redacted. I just read a story the other day that they may have rediscovered Silphium. Yes, I read about this. So it was like someone random, like a monk, who was looking around and thinks they may have found Silphium. So it may be back. Or perhaps it was never truly gone. Fascinating. Yes, I remember reading just the other day. See, you can see this Reddit. Actually, let's not. Reddit from January 5th, 2024. See? It may have been rediscovered. Sleepy, I actually don't know, but cloves are my favorite spice, so if that helps. So, yes, I believe... I don't know. Wherever the article is. Let's check out Silphium. It was read a monk. So Silphium, known as laserwort or laser, is an unidentified plant that was used in classical antiquity as seasoning, perfume, aphrodisiac. Is that really why it went out? And medicine. We haven't any surviving samples. It's described as having thick roots covered in black bark, with a hollow stalk similar to fennel and golden leaves like that of those of celery. Interesting. So they just ate it and used it all for perfume and aphrodisiacs. And medicine. Quite interesting. Let's see. Does it have that news? Oh well. Alright, so some of the spice blends. We'll go back to this beautiful picture. Quilquina. God of Wolves, that's a spice? Lagario, I misread that second word, and I was like, excuse me, what does that have to do with anything? Besides, I believe the ancient ones were the same as the modern ones, but who knows? You can go eat some herbaceous with Gus out of context. Alright, so... So in the Philippines, three main spices in the Philippines are bay leaf, black pepper, and garlic, which you may recognize as all being used in adobo. Those are the primary spices of adobo, along, of course, with soy sauce and cane vinegar. But it's got bay leaf, black pepper, and garlic. A ice spice. I'm not a big fan of ice spice. I'm not impressed. Interesting. Quilquina? Kilkina? Yes, the big three, Tom Casper. Exactly. My book calls it the Holy Trinity, but perhaps that's offensive? Interesting. What does it taste like? Ah, interesting, redacted. Kilkinia. Ah, yes, okay. And then, in North India, they make garam masala with the following spices, according to my book. Black pepper, cassia, black peppercorns, black cumin seeds, mace, cloves, and nutmeg. Gadako, I believe mint would be considered an herb. Oh yes, a natto was on the pyramid. On the pyramid, it was called a natto. So that's what they use, according to my book, in North India for garam masala. Delicious. I like garam masala. Not too spicy. I don't want it too spicy. I want to taste the spices. But for me, when it's spicy, all I taste is pain. Then a spice blend from Syria is za'atar. Tell me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, if anyone knows. Is it za'atar or za'atar? Anyway, cumin, sea salt, sesame, dried oregano, and sumac. I also like za'atar. I love Turkish delight. I don't know what you're talking about, but I love Turkish delight. I have a tolerance for spice, just not spicy. And I'm alright with that. I like to taste my spices. I do have very low tolerance, it's true. Gadako, it is fire I'm tasting. Absolutely, that's all I taste. Next. Pain is the best spice of life. Yes, it's true, I am like Edmund, oh, don't tell me his last name. Pevensey. I love Turkish delight. Rose Turkish delight is my favorite. Pumpkin spice is actually, the spice blend, it does count as a spice blend because pumpkin spice technically doesn't have any pumpkin. It's usually nutmeg, allspice, depending on the blend, it might also have cinnamon, cloves, maybe cardamom. It's za'atar. Okay, za'atar. Thank you, Lagario. So it is a spice blend. Time to get my steps in. And then the last spice blend I included on my list is mole from Mexico. So, yes, I do quite like pumpkin spice, the blend, because I particularly enjoy those warming spices. Clove is my favorite spice, so I enjoy those warming spices that you'd use in a bread. Or I particularly enjoy making, I'll make Scottish oats with a spice blend of warming spices. And then Mexico, yes, mole. Here's a mole recipe from Mexico. According to my book, once again, it's chilies, a couple of chilies, different kinds, cacao nibs, very unique, cacao nibs. And it makes sense because cacao, of course, comes from the Americas. Then the sesame seeds, cinnamon stick, cumin, anise, black peppercorn, cloves, thyme, marjoram, and bay leaf. Marjoram and thyme are actually herbs, not spices, but that aside, it's quite fascinating. Scottish oats is a type of oatmeal, and then I like to add to it a bit of, when I cook it, I add some milk, and then I add the warming spices, perhaps a bit of vanilla, and maybe a little bit of sugar, just a slight sweetness, or I often use maple syrup instead. So that's something I like to eat in the winter. It's my Hogwarts porridge. So I pretend I'm in the Great Hall having breakfast. Not with Harry and Hermione and Ron, but with Luna, because she's more interesting. And we're having our delicious Scottish oats, our breakfast porridge. Yes, cacao nibs is where chocolate comes from. And of course originated in the Americas. If you'd like, we can have, let's discuss topic for next week. We could discuss bean to bar chocolate, which is quite a fascinating topic that I've learned a few times, taken classes on. God of Wolves, how do you say cumin? Is it cumin? Is it cumin? I say cumin when I'm speaking in my British accent, but when I'm speaking in my American accent, I say cumin. Thank you, Gamma Spectre. Gamma Spectre gifted 10 memberships, and I see that Jack Trix received one of them. Thank you. I think Lagario Black Spice, Black Pepper and Salt would count as a spice blend, but that's fairly bland. Cacao is considered a bean. It comes from a bean inside the pod. So cacao is a pod, a fruit that grows. Well, I guess it's a fruit, not a bean. They call it a bean, but I think it's technically a fruit. Chocolate is listed as a spice in my book, but I think he means more cacao. Thank you so much, Redacted. So, for next week, some suggestions. You tell me what you want. So sharks have still not made it through. Last week we discussed how to bake the best cookies, because I'm quite good at that. We could discuss bean to bar chocolate, history of chocolate and different flavors around the world. It's quite fascinating. I know space has been something you've wanted. What else? Mushrooms? Yes, you mean our overlords. Charlemagne, that would definitely take more than one, but we could do more a history of Star Trek. Potentially Acacia. I'm seeing what the rest of you have to say. Dolphins, frightening creatures. Beautiful and frightening. We could do herbs. I'm waiting to see, although there'd be quite a bit of overlap, I think. Mushroom recipes. I have none of those, Gamma. I don't cook mushrooms. A lot of Gotcha characters apparently are getting subs. I saw Metralis and Grave. And don't forget, if you'd like an impression, start turning in your bits for impression requests while we further discuss what we will put on our list. We'll put 4 things on the poll to vote. The Outback. Interesting. Zephyr, were you here the whole time? Cetacean. Did I get a double vote for cetaceans? Did I see just the one? It's still you, Gadako. Okay. Oh, you weren't, Zephyr. Well, I'm glad you made it. Alright, let's finalize this list of 4. We'll put sharks and space on for sure, because they've been hanging on for a while. We'll give them another chance. Well, Zephyr, I wasn't actually cooking. I was just discussing the science of it. So what do we want for the other 2? We could do cookies, we could do chocolate, we could do cetaceans, we could do fungus. Mushroom recipe. Alright, give me a moment. Oh, sorry, still doing the... Ooh, I tried to turn it off and I couldn't for a second. I was like, oh god, I'm stuck. Okay. I don't care how much it costs. I need more spices for market now. Alright, Advent Ace, give me a second. Grave gave me a new combat idea. Spicy bubbles. I've heard of Chicken of the Wolves, Autistic Philosopher. I haven't tried it, though. Alright, pirates. Okay, we're getting all... Okay. Wait. Just the cooking herbs, right. Nutrition. Wait, because you know too... So you do or you don't want nutrition, Charlemagne? Oops, I just closed my thing. Damn it. Alright, let's narrow this down. just did it again. Ah, the science of baking. Yes, that was my wolf impression. Aren't you impressed, Andrew? Alright, 1 more minute. And then I'm putting in the poll. It's going to include sharks, space, a baking topic, or... let's see. Or what do we want for the last one? Mushrooms? Cetaceans? How many people have said herbs? It's hard for me to tell if the same person is repeating or if different people are making the suggestion, and then I get confused. I believe I saw a few different people say herbs. Yes, I was thinking cookies, Blue Tut. Cookies, alright. Baking or herbs? That's the last one. Thank you, God of Wolves. Poll is going to be out in just a moment. And I'll give you a few minutes to vote and get in your last impression requests. So, 5 people said herbs. Excellent. And for people who said pirates or mushrooms, don't worry. They can come back around next week. Yes, Blue Tut, I won't make the cookies sugar-free, but you can always make them smaller. That's what I like to do. I make small cookies so I can eat more of them, but have the same amount of sugar and fat. Ah, that's good to know. I love to go for walks and look at the mushrooms. I have so many mushroom pictures. I had a stream on that topic once. How many of you were here for my fungus/mushroom stream of photos? All right, just a few. Sharks lost again. Well, it's not over yet. I haven't called it. Space is narrowly in the lead. Sharks in a close second. Could come back. I'm going to end it by 9:01 or when everyone who's present votes. Sleepy, you remember? And the poll will be posted on Twitch as well. Thank you for the reminder, God of Wolves. Oof, I've got a headache. All of a sudden. Reminder, tomorrow is gaming. And then Friday, impression stream. Currently, Siren is in the lead. Doctor, in the future, we will have me do a mushroom stream and I'll show you my photos again. I have lovely photos. It's one of my hobbies, photographing mushrooms. Alright, I'm struggling to figure out how to do the Twitch poll. I apologize. So just put it in, say what you want in Twitch, and I'll add that to the poll. Manually. Manually? Oh, you have a theory on black holes. Well, I'd love to hear about that. Alright, 1 extra for sharks from Gadako. 2 extra for sharks. Manually, Doctor. Oh, thank you, God of Wolves. You could have cheated and you chose not to. Alright, Space has won by 1 vote. Alright, everyone. Next week, we'll see what I can fit in 1 hour on the topic of space. So, there we go. Any last impression requests before I go? I'll give you 1 more minute to put them in. So 9:02.5. Yes, 1F, it's the final frontier. Also, if you have any more ideas on TwitchBit rewards, because you seem to be accumulating them quite rapidly, so other ideas for rewards, let me know in the Discord content suggestions page. Ah, Star Wars. I know quite a bit about Star Wars. My first love. Doctor, go ahead. Guess this once. Fate Saber voice, no. Sorry, Godako. I don't have that prepared, and I don't speak Japanese. Well, I speak little, but not fluently. Alright. Sharks will win next time for sure! The spice must flow like money to my bank account. Alright, friends. I lied. I'll give you 1 more minute. Yes, I agree with you, Lagario. Lightsaber battles. Training to be Jedi. Alright. Well, hello! I'm sure we'll enjoy more mushrooms later, my citizens! Alright. 9:04 is when I sign off. Sharks, doo-doo. Thanks, Doctor. Alright. Okay, just a second. Sweet. How am I supposed to get Black Typhoon in space? I'll figure it out. Vroom vroom. Alright, all 9:04. So, I am gonna be going and doing my bedtime routine. It takes 2 hours. It's very involved. So, yeah, I'll make sure to include... Oh, wait, it's not Shark... Wait, Sharks 1? No, Space 1. Sorry, guys. Whenever I do Sharks, we'll include that. All right. Good night, all. Thank you for joining tonight. Make sure to join tomorrow for gaming and discussion. And I swear there was something we talked about that we were like, oh, we'll talk about that on Thursday, but I can't think what it was. If anyone remembers. Eldragon, I saw a little bit of 9, all of 10, and some of 11 of Doctor Who. Well, hello. Good night, munchkins. Oh, that's Yan. Sorry, you asked for Yan, not Crown. My bad. Good night, munchkins. Sleep tight. Don't let the bedbugs bite. All right, all. Majram.